Hi, everyone. This is Thomas Deacon, Senior Vice President of Global Partnerships here at project44. We're continuing our supply chain talk series. And today we're very fortunate enough to have our good friends at Westernacher. Westernacher is one of our premier partners that specialize in the SAP ecosystem. And today I have Benjamin de Wilde from CEO from Westernacher, and I also have Nitesh Salya, solution architect from Westernacher. They're going to join me today to talk about some of the things they're seeing in the SAP ecosystem, what's going on in supply chain, and specifically some of the solutions that they've created that give their customers a quicker time to value. So we're very interested in that. So Benjamin, Nitesh, welcome to Supply Chain Talks, and we're happy to have you.
Thanks a lot. Great being here, Thomas. Great time for supply chain talks, I must say.
Absolutely. So, Benjamin, if you could you give just a quick overview of Westernacher? I know you're the CEO, but just for our viewers, just a little bit to understand who Westernacher is.
Westernacher Consulting is a global consultancy that is focused mainly around the SAP portfolio. And what we do is we bring innovation into business processes across the board, end to end. And that innovation comes from the technology side, mainly. So we focus on how you can get technology innovation activated into business processes. And since most of the largest companies in the world and a lot of the mid-sized companies use SAP as their main platform to operate on, and that started with core ERP, finance, those things, and then has expanded for the last decades into a full-fledged suite covering pretty much everything a company does. That has been really a breeding ground for innovation in all kinds of areas. But the last 15 years have been very, very strong in the supply chain side, where SAP has come out with product after product that really fills the gaps into how to operate a fully digital supply chain, and it's very exciting times for that. So we've been around for about more than 50 years. 69 is when we were founded, 2 years before SAP. Our founder was actually a colleague of the SAP colleagues, and we've been an SAP partner for decades. And originally started in Germany, but now we operate around the globe with about 750 consultants in 19 countries around the world.
Wow, that's great. Thanks for the background. And I think it's interesting to note again, I don't think I've met a partner of SAP that's been around before SAP. So that's I think that's a pretty cool fact. Nitesh, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, sure. So yeah, I've been working with Westernacher from last 5 years, and I work as a supply chain execution architect today at Westernacher, and helping customers to implement their digital supply chains with transparency and as well as sustainability.
Great. All right. So
and you bring up a great point there, Nitesh. One thing we're super proud of, so I have to tell it, is that we're net zero since last year. So we made an initiative beginning of 2021 to capture and report on our own carbon footprint, analyze it, and try to drive it down as much as we can. Of course, that was relatively easy in the COVID times because most of our carbon footprint comes from travel, which was very restricted. But still, we set that up, and we're offsetting everything that we can't avoid, but we're trying to avoid it as much as possible. So thanks for that tee up, Nitesh.
That's very interesting, and for us, sustainability is a big thing, and obviously, Scope 3 emissions. We just collaborated on a white paper with you, so on sustainability as well. So we're very excited about that. But that's impressive and really great to hear. So let's shift gears just for a second, because I think what we're really interested in is Benjamin, you mentioned this earlier about just the digital. We've moved to a digital age, and we're getting to a point where SAP's customers are looking for digital solutions to manage the supply chain, right? To be more efficient, more effective. And I'm going to use the word agile instead of resilient, because I think agile is a better term now, because now that we've been through COVID, we saw what happened to supply chains. Now we need to be agile to be able to respond to pretty much anything. With that, I know that Westernacher has put together some solutions specifically around the TM application and LBN application. And for those of you that don't know what LBN stands for, we like to use a lot of acronyms here. It's a Logistics Business Network by SAP. So Benjamin, Nitesh, if you could, I think it'd be great for you to give us some background on what you guys are doing in regard to your solutions around the SAP applications.
Absolutely. And agility, and really the core focus of why we want to be agile is to be resilient. So I'll still come back to resilience if you don't mind. But
Sure.
Agility and resilience is really key, top agenda item for most companies right now with the massive supply chain struggles. But it is also one of the things that is greatly supported by a real digital supply chain. And the vision, we're not 100% there yet, but we're coming very close. The vision is that you would come to, as a company, you would come to a situation where you have your whole supply chain, actually your whole value chain, captured as a digital twin, which basically means you have a digital model of everything that is happening in your supply chain as you plan it to happen and as it is happening in real time. Have that updated with the real-time information, plus the context information around that, the context information that in the past was not so much captured by business systems. Of course, obvious stuff like weather, but also social trends. And then you have these topics like lockdowns and other things that impact your working environment. And that becomes an extremely data-rich world that you need to capture and hold in systems in such a way that that becomes actionable, that you drive intelligence out of it and you drive actions out of it. And of course, the first big step you need to take to be able to do that is that you need to cover your value chain end to end and that of your business partners. So you need to have, as a company, you need to have these core systems in place that run your ERP, your enterprise resource planning, that run obviously your sales and your customers. You need to capture those. That's pretty obvious, yeah. But also you need to have a very good grip on what's happening within your internal supply chain or warehousing systems, and then your transportation partners that bring and your suppliers and their availability of goods. That impact your supply chain. All of that needs to be at your fingertips and in such a way that you have powerful tools to then plan, collaborate on making your supply chain smooth and efficient, also when disruptions hit. So the transportation management solution from SAP is like one solid cornerstone of that basic setup that you need to have in place. That's one of the core things that we do is implement these types of systems. But just having the core system in place is not enough. Now you need to be able to be agile and resilient. You need three things. First of all, you need to have the information that something's happening. Some tanker tried to cross the Suez Canal sideways, and we know that that's not a good idea and that things then happen, but you need to know that. You need to know these events. That's a pretty big event. You can just pick that up from the news channel, but there's so many small events that happen all the time everywhere. A ship is loaded a little bit later than was planned. A truck arrives a bit later than planned or earlier. It's millions and millions of events that happen all the time. So you need a systematic way of being able to capture those. But capturing that is not enough. You then need to be able to relate that to your supply chain. What does that mean for which purchase order in my supply chain? And what, if I know the purchase order and I know the product that's affected, what inventory is affected or what factory? And from there, I can then, and I need to then know what customer is affected by that. Can I mitigate just by shifting inventory internally? Can I mitigate by finding another supplier? Those kinds of then actions are the third point that you need to be able to do, is drive actions from that. And P44 has a fantastic solution for providing the information, providing all those detailed, up-to-date, real-time informations on what is happening in your transportation network that is bringing the goods either to you, your DCs or your factories, or to your customers. The next two steps, how does that relate to your supply chain, to your objects, and what can you do to mitigate, to really become resilient? That's what we provide these time to value solutions for.
Perfect. And that's where we see that as, we're a data as a service. And we like to say that, I like to compare that to, I'm not going to be able to use this analogy much longer, but I like to say, when you go to put gas in your car or petrol in your car, you put the high octane in to get the high results of the engine or the high performance. If you have good data, you're going to have the same thing with your applications. So we think that our data is used to power those applications, but what you said is, how do I get value out of those applications? And what's the, what's that project look like? How do I have a systems integrator and a consulting partner guide me through that? So looking forward on this next little clip here for you to go through and talk about your time to value solutions.
Yeah, because the as mentioned, the question is, once you have these very important triggers, events coming in, a container is a bit late there, a train is coming in late there, a truck is there's some event with a blockage somewhere. Then the question is, how do you systematically capture that data? P44 does that for you. It captures the data and it brings it to you. But how do you systematically bring that into your own systems so that you can relate it to the objects that matter to you, your customer orders, your inventories, your manufacturing orders that might be impacted by parts that are coming in late, and so on. So you need a systematic way to connect the events to the objects in your transportation management and then downstream in your ERP systems. And we all know that building transportation management and ERP systems is not something you do overnight. That's not something that is very quick. But here's the good news. Once you have those in place, and most all of our customers have systems of some kind in place, either an SAP ECC system, or they might already have an SAP TM system, or they might already be looking at or using an SAP LBN, Logistics Business Network solution. You have those systems in place. Now, the good thing is we have three solutions for those three types of scenarios where you can very quickly connect the P44, the very rich, high volume P44 data, and connect that straight to the objects that really matter to your supply chain. And maybe I should share a couple of screens, and Nitish will help me walk through these because he's the expert on how these different architectures actually work. But we can, yeah, I'll share here.
Yeah, definitely. While you're doing that would be great. I think this is the crux of the conversation right here. We're looking forward to this.
Exactly. So if you can see the screen there, I mean, this is a basic scenario, right? You have a central warehouse. Maybe you have some regional warehouses. Oops. Why is it? Yeah. Okay. Maybe you have some regional warehouses, and then you have your customers that need. Maybe you have some stores. This would be like a retail setup, right? And now you have a supplier offshore manufacturing goods, transporting those typically via ocean freight and then some truck or rail into your central warehouse. And it turns out Shanghai is on here. Turns out there's a lockdown in Shanghai. Yeah, and there's delays in that leg too. Now P44 knows that almost instantaneously. Yeah, but when does your inbound delivery in your ERP system know that? And when does your planning system that plans how you're going to deliver from that warehouse to your from your central warehouse to your DCs and then to your end customers or stores, when does that planning system find out about that specific container and what its exact delay in ETA, the expected time of arrival, now is? That's the trick that we want to address with these time to value solutions. Yeah, so I'll skip through these a bit, but basically we have three ways of integrating. Yeah, the first one is for customers who have a TM system already in place and who are looking to or have implemented LBN, Logistics Business Network. These would be the customers that are, I would say, the furthest ahead in terms of really covering their end-to-end supply chain into a digital supply, SAP-powered digital supply chain. There, we can pull in the P44 data through SAP LBN and connect it up with SAP Transportation Management. And maybe Nitesh, you could give us a little bit of insight for the maybe the listeners who have a system like this, a TM system already in place, what that exactly would mean. What information do we get from P44 and where does it end up in your transportation management system so that you can make it actionable?
Yep. So yeah. So what we basically do here is in transportation management system, we will receive a freight unit, and based on that, we will create a freight order or a freight booking. The freight order and freight booking are exactly the shipments which you guys have been using for the transports. So what happens is we will transfer these freight orders or freight bookings to LBN via the global track and trace option. And this will be getting forwarded to the project44 systems and will create a shipment identifier. Now, at this point in time, the project44 will start providing the visibility and as well as tracking for the shipments. So P44 provides every 15 to 60 minutes of the updates based on the mode of transports. So the informations like estimated time of arrivals, what are the delays which are being captured based on the machine learning languages are being driven by P44. Now this information is passed on back then again to global track and trace. And this information is used to visualize which of your freight units are in delay state in case there is a delay. And it gets passed on back to your backend system, which is your SAP TM system, which is it is reflected based on the execution information tab of your freight order and freight booking. Now, remember this thing. We understand that the best of the options and best of the data is coming from P44. So P44 brings transparency here. The TM system, which is your backend system, is updated with this information, and you are aware of how to carry out based on this information and action for your predictive logistics or your prescriptive logistics. That means you can find your plans of your transportation consistent enough automatically in the longer run.
Perfect.
Right. So and that exactly answers this question I posed, is like when something happens, a ship gets delayed, and not just something that's on the news. Yeah, but every ship that you are using worldwide in your transportation demand, yeah, everything that is, every ship that is being used to carry goods either from your suppliers to you or from you to your customers, or intra-company, you get any event within 15 minutes. You know what's happening with that. You know that there's a delay, and you can relate it to the object that is impacted, to the freight unit, to the order, and the goods in that order that are impacted. That's what makes it actionable within 15 to 60 minutes. And that's the quantitative difference in this digital twin world versus just the old, we used to have a lot of information digital already, yeah, but not up to date in the volumes and widespread information update as we do it here.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the the longest pole in every tent for any application being implemented is the integration, right? And so if you were to just stand up TM on its own and have to connect to all the carriers instead of using Project 44, then you're having to make a connection to every one of those carriers. So the value here is to have that one connection from TM, in this case through LBN, into Project 44 to do exactly what you were saying, Benjamin. So that this is the LBN example. What's your next example?
Yeah, not everybody has a full-blown SAP TM solution already in place. Yeah, so for those that don't, we can very quickly leverage SAP LBN, because that's a cloud solution that you can connect with very quickly, but you don't necessarily need that TM layer in between. We can connect that up to your ECC or S4 system, where you'd be using classically Elytra, the old, much more limited transportation functionality from ECC, and basically give you very similar visibility, plus leverage the LBN global track and trace user interface, which is very attractive and gives you a very good overview. So yeah, maybe Nitish, you can quickly walk us through how we do it in this area.
Excellent. So basically why we are offering this entire solution is because, let's say a customer is on old ECC and he still has a visibility problems. Yeah. So currently there is a standard integration only between S4 and an LBN systems. But what we offer is that the older customers don't have to wait to move to S4 before they can start realizing this visibility and transparency in their supply chain. So what option we provide here is that you have your sales orders, purchase orders, or inbound or outbound deliveries, but in the end, what you're doing is creating a Elytra shipment. This shipment is then again routed it back down based on Westernacher extractors and posted down into an LBN, global track and trace option. Now this global track and trace again forwards the information to Project 44. Project 44 creates a shipment identifier. The shipment identifier receiving the shipment identifier by P44, it starts doing a visibility and tracking, and that information again is passed down back within 15 and 60 minutes. This information, once received in LBN, it can be viewed to make sure that which order or deliveries are getting impacted if there is any delay around of your shipment.
Yeah, and I think we have we can visualize that a bit, what that would look like, Nitish. So maybe you can walk us through this. What is it we're looking at here?
Yeah, thank you. So what we see right now on our first screen is the ETA updates. That means if you see the ETA of the destinations, it's clearly visible that there is a 4 days delay, 4 days and 13 hours delay to this shipment. That means it could cause a problem whether to your production operations or to your delivery to the customers. Now the question comes out how you mitigate that risk, and that risk is only mitigated once you have this transparency. So with this transparency, with the ETA updates coming up at regular intervals, this information gets visible. Then the second point which we are seeing is a tracking timeline with maps. Now today, the supply chain execution planners are having a tough time to relate, okay, where the problem is, where my unit is, can I visualize that on the map? Because visualization always helps. And with this tracking timeline, SAP and Westernacher is providing this map on which you can visualize where your shipment is, and with the tracking timeline, it provides the entire list of events which this shipment has to cater to. The third screenshot is a quick view at glance. That means for supply chain execution planners, they have a very easy and a quick view to check, filter out the information based on delay status. That means they are much more smarter with these smarter work lists. And then the fourth thing is that if there is a delay which happens onto your inbound delivery or on your inbound supply chain shipments, you will instantaneously know and connect it down which purchase order has been impacted and which plant and which factory site is being impacted upon.
Thanks, Neetish. I think this, I don't know, Thomas, but for me, this really visualizes how you go from capturing masses of information to relating those to the right objects, picking out where it really matters, namely when you have a delay. Of course, many of the events that happen are not delays or are not a problem. There might be a delay, but only in one leg. They might not change the ETA of the arrival of the final at the final destination. So the whole system is set up so you don't have to worry about anything that doesn't matter. You can quickly see what does matter, where you really have impact, and that makes it actionable related to the objects that are impacted in your supply chain.
That's perfect, and I agree. This visualization is perfect, showing how this works, and the whole thing is managed by exception, right? That's where the value comes, is being able to manage by exception, not go track every order and not have to do it manually. So this is perfect. Thank you.
Right, and management by exception becomes all the more important as the information just explodes exponentially. Yeah, as we capture more and more events, more granular, more up to date, it just becomes absolutely mandatory to have a machine do the thinking about which events should get our attention and which shouldn't. Yeah, because otherwise it's just way too much.
Which in turn allows us to be more agile and then resilient, right, Ben?
Exactly, exactly. But there's a fourth option. There might be customers that are using, a third option. Getting ahead of myself here. There might be customers that are using SAP Transportation Management, but for whatever reason are not on LBN yet. Or might not go there. And there was a time when there was transportation management, but LBN didn't exist yet. So we have a plugin for P44 by Westernacher for your transportation management system, where you can get this information also directly without going through LBN. So it's maybe not the optimal solution because you're missing all of the LBN capabilities, but there is a way to connect directly as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that brings us to the then million-dollar question: how long does it take to get this in place? Yeah, because are we talking about a 9-month or 12-month project here to get all this done? No, Thomas, you highlighted the point. The legwork of getting all the information from all these carriers, from all these ships, is being done by P44. So you don't, and through LBN, that has the business network philosophy behind it. So we have one cloud managed by SAP that brings the whole world onto one network. And just by connecting yourself to that network, you suddenly have access to everybody else on that network. And one of the, of course, big sources of information you then have access to is P44. Now, connecting up to LBN is not a 9-month project, and setting up these integrations is something that we offer as a time to value solution in an 8-week program. Of course, it has a clearly defined scope, clearly defined requirements from your side, but that's a timeline that we can get something like this flying with.
That's great, and I think that's the key, right? Is being able to have a plan, being able to take these applications and lay it out, and that's why I've always said having a trusted advisor to walk you through this is one of the most critical things that you can do when you go on a technology journey. And it's kind of like the same thing if you're playing golf, right? If you look at the PGA Tour, the best players always rely on their caddies. So in this situation, I would say, the companies need to rely on their trusted advisors here, and to walk them through that journey and to lay that out. And that methodology you have, if you follow it, it's a key to success. So I think that's great. And let me also say to you, Benjamin, and to Nitesh, thanks for going through this and talking with us specifically about the different types of solutions. I'm really excited that, Westernacher has come around this and said, we want to be able to give our customers and the ecosystem the ability to use these applications, the ability to help them from a digital transformation and to do it in a quick fashion to get that return to value. So thank you for that explanation.
And I would like to return those thanks to P44 because it was so obvious for us. Our customers were asking, you know, we need this visibility. We've got containers stuck all over the place. We've got delays in our supply chain. We need to be able to react to that very fast. First of all, we need the visibility. We need to know what's going on. And there it was clear P44 has fantastic data as a service solution. And then we need to be able to act on that. We need to be able to relate it to the right thing. So that's why we built this solution, which takes the P44 data and makes it actionable very quickly for you. And yeah, we were happy to do that bit of legwork so people can get going on really putting P44 data into making their supply chain resilient and agile.
Perfect. And so we'll sum it up here. So what I'll say is for the folks that are watching, if you're an SAP customer or you're looking to go down the SAP path, specifically with TM or S4, or if you're an ECC customer, as Nitesh has pointed out, you can get more information about Westernacher Solutions at westernacher.com. Again, they're a global company, so supporting all regions of the world, and one of the premier partners at project44. So please give them check out their solutions, and if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to project44 as well. Benjamin, Nitesh, Thank you so much. Great to have you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.